It's 3 in the morning and you're wide awake. You've been asleep for a few hours, and now here you are, staring at the ceiling in the dark, your mind turning. And the first thought that arrives is the one we've all been trained to think. Something is wrong with me. You reach for your phone. You worry about how tired you'll be tomorrow. You tell yourself you have insomnia, that your sleep is broken, that you're failing at the one thing every human is supposed to do effortlessly. But what if you're not broken at all? What if waking in the middle of the night is one of the most ancient, natural, and deeply human things you could possibly do? What if, for most of human history, that quiet hour in the dark wasn't a problem? It was a normal, expected, even treasured part of the night? The way we sleep today, 8 solid hours, alone or with one partner, in a silent, dark room, ending with a screaming alarm clock, is a very recent invention. It is not how humans slept for hundreds of thousands of years. And when you discover how our ancestors actually rested, it doesn't just change how you think about the past. It might change how you feel about your own nights. So let's lie down beside an ancient fire and find out how humans really slept. First, we have to be honest about a problem. How could we possibly know how someone slept 40,000 years ago? Sleep doesn't fossilize. There's no skeleton of a good night's rest. A dream leaves nothing behind in the dirt. So scientists do something clever. They study the few remaining groups of people on Earth who still live much as our ancestors did. Hunter-gatherers, whose way of life offers our best living window into the deep past. Groups like the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia. These people don't have electricity, alarm clocks, mattresses, or screens. Their nights are shaped by the same forces that shaped our ancestors: fire, darkness, cold, danger, and each other. And in recent years, researchers strapped movement tracking devices to their wrists and recorded, for the first time, exactly how they sleep. What they found overturned almost everything we assume about natural sleep. Let's start with the first big shock. We tend to believe that before phones and electric lights, people must have slept long, deep, glorious nights, going to bed at sunset and sleeping 10 hours in blissful darkness. It's a comforting fantasy. That modern life stole our perfect natural sleep. The data says otherwise. Across these 3 hunter-gatherer societies, the average night's sleep was only about 6.5 hours. In some groups, as little as 6. That's less than many modern people get, and they did not fall asleep the moment the sun went down. On average, they stayed awake for more than 3 hours after sunset, sitting by the fire, talking, telling stories, before finally lying down. So the idea that our ancestors slept vastly more than us, in tune with the setting sun, it's a myth. They actually slept a bit less than the 8 hours we're told to aim for, and they stayed up after dark by choice, around the warmth and light of a fire. But here's the thing. They weren't tired and broken like modern short sleepers. Their sleep was short, but it was extraordinarily efficient. And some scientists believe that efficiency is one of the secrets of being human. Think about it from evolution's point of view. Sleep is dangerous. When you're asleep, you are helpless, blind, deaf to threats, unable to run or fight. For an animal on an ancient landscape full of predators, every hour spent unconscious is an hour of pure vulnerability. So there was enormous pressure to make sleep quick and effective. To get in, get the deep restorative rest your brain and body need, and get out. Compared to our closest primate relatives, humans actually sleep less overall, but spend more of that time in the deepest, most valuable stages of sleep. We evolved to sleep smarter, not longer, shrinking the window of danger while still getting what we needed. Those extra waking hours could be spent learning, bonding, making tools, and staying alive. Our short, efficient sleep may be not a modern failure, but an ancient advantage. Now for the second discovery, and this is the one that might genuinely change your life. Remember lying awake at 3 in the morning, convinced something was wrong? Here is the truth that history books almost forgot. For much of human history, people didn't sleep in one single block. They slept in 2. It was called first sleep and second sleep. People would go to bed a few hours after dark and fall into their first sleep, lasting around 4 hours. Then, in the deep middle of the night, they would naturally wake up and stay awake for 1 or even 2 hours. This waking period was completely normal. It wasn't insomnia, it wasn't a problem. It was just part of the night. And what did they do in that quiet hour in the dark? Everything. Historical records, especially from medieval Europe, describe people using this time to pray, to think, to talk quietly with whoever lay beside them. Some rose to tend the fire or check on animals. Some read by candlelight. Some visited neighbors. Couples talked and were intimate. It was a peaceful, private pocket of time carved out of the middle of the night. And then, when it passed, they would sink back down into their second sleep until dawn. References to first and second sleep appear again and again in old writing, in court records, in diaries, in literature. As if everyone simply understood it. This was how people slept, and then it vanished. As artificial light spread, first gas lamps, then the electric bulb, the night changed. Suddenly people could stay up long after dark. Bedtimes got later. The night got shorter and got compressed into one solid block. And that gentle waking in the middle of the night, the one humans had known for countless generations, was squeezed out. By the 1920s, the very idea of first sleep and second sleep had almost completely disappeared from human memory. So we forgot. We forgot that waking in the night was ever normal. And now, when it happens to us, as it naturally still does for many people, we panic. We call it a disorder. We reach for pills and worry ourselves into exhaustion. But your body may simply be remembering something very, very old. That 3 a.m. waking might not be broken sleep. It might be ancestral sleep. Breaking through. Now, whether ancient humans always split their sleep into a neat two is still debated. The strong historical evidence for first and second sleep comes especially from later societies in northern latitudes, where nights are long. But the deeper point holds. The rigid, unbroken 8-hour block we treat as the only correct way to sleep is not some timeless human default. It's recent. And the natural human night was almost certainly more flexible, more broken, and more communal than ours. Which brings us to the third great difference, and it might be the most important of all. Ancient humans did not sleep alone. Today we prize sleeping in a quiet, private room, ideally in a bed of our own, or with a single partner. To our ancestors, that would have seemed not just strange, but dangerous and deeply lonely. They slept together, in groups, families, and often the whole band, resting close to one another around the embers of a fire, bodies near bodies, for warmth against the cold night, and for something even more valuable. Safety. Because out there in the dark, sleep was the moment you were most exposed. Predators hunt at night. Rival groups could approach. A sleeping human, alone, was an easy meal. But a sleeping group was a different matter entirely. And this is where scientists uncovered one of the most beautiful ideas in all of sleep research. It's called the sentinel hypothesis. A sentinel is a guard, a watcher. And the idea is this. A group stays safe through the night if there is always at least one person awake. One pair of open eyes to catch the approaching danger. One voice to raise the alarm. But here's the elegant part. Our ancestors didn't need to assign someone to stay up on guard duty, forcing one poor tired soul to miss sleep every night. Nature had already solved the problem. Through something you experience yourself. Chronotypes. The natural variation in when people feel sleepy. You know it well. Some people are morning larks, bright and alert at dawn but useless by 9 at night. Others are night owls, dragging in the morning but wide awake past midnight. And most of us are somewhere in between. We tend to treat this as a personality quirk or a bad habit. But what if it's a survival system? When scientists studied that Hadza group sleeping together, they found people of all different chronotypes. The older members tended to go to bed early and wake early. Younger members stayed up late and slept in. Everyone's internal clock was set slightly differently, and the result was astonishing. Over 20 days and nights of observation, across the whole group, there was almost never a single moment when every person was asleep at the same time. In fact, in more than 3 weeks of nights, the total time when all adults were simultaneously asleep added up to just 18 minutes. 18 minutes out of 3 weeks. For more than 99% of the night, every single night, at least one person in the group was naturally awake. Not because they were forced to stand guard, simply because their bodies were built on different clocks. The early risers and the night owls, without ever planning it, without ever meaning to, formed a seamless, unbroken chain of watchfulness across the entire night. The group was always protected, and no one had to sacrifice their sleep to do it. So the next time you meet a night owl who can't function before noon, or a lark who's yawning at 8 in the evening, remember this. That variation might not be random. It might be an ancient gift, a system that kept our ancestors alive, night after night, for hundreds of thousands of years. Your family's mismatched sleep schedules may be the faded echo of a security system older than civilization itself. And there's one more member of this ancient night that we can't forget, the thing at the very center of it all, fire. The control of fire changed human sleep forever. Fire meant warmth, so humans could sleep in colder places and through colder nights. Fire meant light, extending the day and creating that precious window after dark. The time for stories, for bonding, for planning. And above all, fire meant protection. A burning fire kept predators at bay through the night, a flickering wall between the sleeping group and the darkness beyond. Some scientists think fire was so important that it reshaped our sleep and even our bodies. Once we had fire and the safety of the group, we may have been able to sleep more deeply than our tree-dwelling ancestors ever could, because for the first time, something else was standing guard. Fire watched, so we could finally rest. Picture it now. That is the true image of ancient human sleep. Not a lone figure in a silent bedroom, but a group of people, bodies close together on the ground, wrapped in furs against the cold, gathered around a low orange fire. Someone is always half awake, an old woman stirring before dawn, a young man still murmuring by the embers near midnight. Children breathing softly in the middle, the safest place of all. The fire crackles. The dark presses in from every side, full of danger. And through the whole long night, without anyone deciding it, the group keeps itself safe, one sleepy watcher at a time, until the sun finally rises. That is how humans slept for almost our entire existence, together, warm, watched over, short and efficient, broken gently in the middle by a quiet waking hour that no one feared. And then, in the blink of an evolutionary eye, we changed all of it. We built walls and separate rooms. We invented the mattress, the alarm clock, the electric light. We pushed our bedtimes later and later, crushed our sleep into a single rigid block, and shut ourselves away, each of us alone in the dark. We gained privacy. We gained comfort. But we may have lost something too. The fire, the closeness, the gentle rhythm of a night shared with others. So the next time you wake at 3 in the morning, don't panic. Don't reach for your phone and count the hours you're losing. Instead, lie there for a moment in the quiet dark, and remember what that waking really is. It's not a flaw, it's a memory. A whisper from 100,000 years of firelit nights, when your ancestors woke in the deep of the dark, and were not afraid, because they were together, and someone was always watching over them. You come from people who slept beside the fire, and some part of you still remembers how.